Ah, Rare. Such a great development company responsible for many classic hits from the Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 era. Until it met its demise when it got bought out by Microsoft and left to make crappy Kinect sports games and of course the dreadful Nuts and Bolts. But before Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts came to fruition, Rare had other plans for Banjo-Kazooie. Their intentions were to revive the franchise with a reimagination of the original Banjo-Kazooie for the Nintendo 64, which many have grown to love throughout the years. And so in today's video, we'll be discussing the cancellation of Banjo X. Banjo X was to be developed and marketed as a straight remake of the first game, modernized for new consoles and with a new art style. Supposedly, the characters in the game were to break the fourth wall, so to speak, and gradually become aware that the game was a remake of the original N64 version. I know that breaking the fourth wall is a bit of a comedic effect in the gaming nowadays, but in this context, I feel that it would have left fans with a few more questions as to where the hell is Banjo 3. But let's move on. The deeper into the game the player would get, the more things would drift away from the original. And that is when the characters would become aware that they were in a remake of the original game and try to make it play out better than it did the first time around. This wasn't limited to Banjo and Kazooie, but Grunty as well, which was going to let the developers do some crazy new stuff, as well as pull in things from Banjo-Tooie if they wanted to. While working on Banjo X, Rare also began to work on a game known as Banjo-Kazooie, which was to be a Mario Kart inspired racer with all the Banjo characters. The difference between this game and Mario Kart was that it was mainly focused on players constructing their own vehicles. Banjo-Kazooie didn't get very far and the project was shut down, but the concepts were later used in Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Now, Xbox executable files for a title called Banjo X were found on an abandoned Xbox development kit and are dated for June 2004. These files are missing any of the assets that would have been needed to run the game, but a few hackers managed to break them open and found some clues. Now unfortunately, the game doesn't do much when attempting to access it. Depending on the file launch, some type of black screen with white text will pop up, showing files missing or some sort of error. It was expected that the game wouldn't work due to these missing assets, but the fact that it boots at all shows that there is something going on behind the scenes. Another Rare title prototype does the exact same thing without there being any assets, which have left some to wonder why this happens at all. One user was able to extract an early 3D model of Mumbo. The Rare prototypes for the Nintendo 64 that were found were originally protected and needed to be decrypted with a dongle in order to work properly. These types of things aren't unheard of going into the PlayStation 2 and Xbox era, especially with the PlayStation 2. But we do know for a fact that some sort of test was being done with Banjo on the original Xbox. Tests that included enough information in the Xbox executable files that it could be determined that it was actually worked on a bit and that these files weren't simply renamed files of another project. Abilities and items were also discovered in these executable files. Some of these included springy shoes, rocket sneakers, metal feathers, aviator goggles, invisibility chocolates, big feathers, bag of eggs, and diamond beak. Now even though the game supposedly didn't get very far into development, Steve Mayles tweeted out these early character models of Banjo X. One was Mr. Termite, and the other was Conga. Designer Ed Bryan also tweeted out a rendition of a reimagined Mumbo made around 2004.
Come on up and go. If you eat your heart, eat up.
According to designer Greg Mayles, Rare thought it would be a hard sell and that players would expect a whole new game, which is probably true, but damn, I would have loved to play this game. Now when Banjo X was being made as another 3D platformer, Rare realized that were getting too big to traverse by foot, so they decided to combine the Banjo-Kazooie idea with the world of Banjo X. The original concept was to have constant vehicle access as well as construction, but they still hoped to stay similar to the first two games. Microsoft then decided that the vehicle access should take a larger focus because it was a unique concept to be added to a puzzle game, and so the entire game switched its focus to vehicles. The developers only got as far as the first level of Banjo X, which was Mamba's Mountain. Rare designer Steve Malpass stated, "All the puzzles and tasks in that level, we would see how we could adapt them. Conga the Ape, for instance, would realize how he had fought Banjo and Kazooie on the Nintendo 64 version and act differently." Microsoft thought that the original idea would be able to start a collection of new games for the Banjo franchise. There are also no future plans to pick up Banjo X or Banjo 3 again while Rare is still owned by Microsoft. It's such a shame that this franchise, which is known to make awesome games, died because of this poor decision to make nuts and bolts what it is today. Now unfortunately, that's all we know of Banjo X. Thank you all for watching. Check out some of my other videos. Just click these links here in the screen and check out Unseen 64. I have the links in the description below, and I'll see you all next time.